of the eternal,
Right.
of
These are
the
just terms. I'm explaining. He's explaining what the term is referring to. We're on page 45. If you want to, this is now Chumash. If you want to join, you don't have to
yeah.
stay, but it's a different. We do two classes in one, so we do Tanya and we do Chumash.
Yeah, I'll stay for a little bit.
Sure. Okay. Page 45. Hashem spoke to Moshe to Aaron, saying, Lamedalad, Kisa Vailaretz Canaan, when you come to the land of Canaan, right? The Jews are now in the desert. When you will come to the land of Canaan, Asher Ani Nesin Lachem Lachuz, that I'm giving to you as a possession. Nesati Negat Tzaras, and I put a Tzaras mark, Beves Eretz Achuzaschem, on a house, the land of your possession. So we talked till now what happens when the person has Tzaras, which was the skin, the white skin discoloration, which was considered a spiritual phenomenon indicative of a certain level of impurity that a person brought upon themselves if they misused their speech. It does not exist today. Eczema is not that, right? We said, we talked about if it happens on a person's clothes, it wasn't white, it was green or red. That was, what the telltale signs if this is a spiritual phenomenon that God's trying to give the person a message to fix their speech. Now we talk about it happens on the house. I believe, by the way, the Rambam says at the end of the laws of Tsaras, he connects the dots. He says Tsaras comes from, in biblical times, if a person, they were on a higher level, and the body was very much affected by the spiritual, lackings. So a person that would misuse speech, they'd have the skin would show that you're a good person, but your speech, which is more external, needs fixing. So the skin would show it. And there was a whole way to say if this was what was happening. This was a sign from heaven. So if a person does it, first God sends a color on the house, right? So what happens is, and if you get the message, get the memo. And if they don't, if indeed it's us, they basically everything in the house becomes impure. It's a whole issue. They don't get the message, then the tsaras would come on the clothes. They don't get the message, it comes in the body, and then they have to be ostracized in quarantine till they get the memo and repent from misusing speech. I'll get the plug.
So first he comes in the house.
First, it would go in the house, more external, and then it would.
It starts going.
It goes closer to closer. This is a good lesson for life, right? Like Hashem's always sending us messages.
Yeah.
Hashem's sending us messages that we have to pick it up. Oh wait, if you look in the Chumash, this has the Chumash. Okay. So actually, there's a beautiful Rashi about this that we start now. Oh, on the phone. Okay. Hashem says another thing interesting, that the tsaras on the house was actually a gift to the Jews. What do you mean? If it comes from a guy who's kind of sinful, then listen to this, that the tsaras marks are going to come upon their houses because the Jews, when they, it's on page 45 in the bottom in Rashi, the Amori, which was one of the 7 Canaanite nations who the Jews had to conquer to get the land of Israel, they will hide treasures of gold in the walls of their homes throughout the 40 years when we're in the desert. And as a result of the tsaras marks, he will demolish the house and fall because when it gets you have to break the wall down or something. We'll see soon.
It's to just like the full body.
Yeah. Now the bottom asks the question: what do you mean? Like, why does the sinful gossiper guy who misuses speech is the one who then gets, the rainbow leading to the pot of gold? So one opinion actually says originally it was not coming from tsaras. It came as literally as like a spotlight of where the treasures are. Okay. Another commentary says, so interesting. So they say, well, if you want to say that, fine. In other words, it was really false tsaras. It wasn't because the Jew in the house was bad. It was just to show them. They asked the question, but why do we treat it there's consequences for a house that's deemed with saras. You have to actually take the plaster wall and you have to bury it in like a no man's land because it's impure, right? But if it's just later on, it was for someone who gossiped, needed to have their house, they had to get the memo, and there's an impurity in the house that has to be buried. But here, what's the problem? The guy's didn't do anything wrong. It says because that was the impurity of the Emori nation. It was almost like a rebuild, a refresh of the house, take away the idolatrous impurity in the walls.
Wow.
Okay. Page 46, top of the page, Lamed Hey. Uva asher lehabayis vigila kohen lemar. The person to whom the house belongs shall then come and tell the priest, saying the following: Kenega nidali baboyis. There appears to me something like a tsaras mark on my house, right? Because the guy, you can't decide if it's tsaras or not. Only the kohen, who's an expert and a very kind expert, can be the one to determine if this is tsaras or it's just a mold. You had to call the mold guys.
Why do they put the word joyful in it? I don't understand. It's a joyful announcement. If you look at the footnote for verse
good news.
Why is it good news? I mean, I got to schlep everything out of there, and my wife is going to be in a big state of.
You find $1 billion in your wall. That's pretty good.
But you don't know that in advance.
Well, he's telling you that's what they're saying, that this originally this was a spotlight for where the treasures were. Anyways, okay, continuing on. Even, thank you for joining. Yes, feel free to come again.
Thank you.
Even a learned man who knows it is certainly a tsaras mark should not make a decisive statement saying there appears to me a mark. Rather, it appears like a mark. Because again, you want to show that you're not the Kohen. You don't get to decide. Lamed Vav, Vitziva Kohen Afinas Habayis, the priest shall then order that they empty out the house. Before the Kohen comes to look at it, examine it, so that whatever's in the house won't become deemed impure. Because once it's deemed a tsaras house, there's an impurity. And if you've got earthenware vessels, they get broken. Everything in the house underneath gets thin. And after the priest shall come to look at the house. So once you clear out all the stuff that get ruined, and then you go to okay.
This is training for Pesach.
Oh, there you go. You know it, right? You know what it's like.
But the treasure wasn't in every house, right? It was in houses.
The ones that had it. Somehow, every house.
Time?
Originally, it says that's what we said. Originally, it was like that. Not every. It sounds like there was a what is it? What do they say there? Didn't say.
How did the Emori leave without being? I mean, they had a fight, and is that what happened?
They were defeated.
We
Joshua
actually
defeated them.
Joshua scared them out of there.
Interesting. So it says here, the way they quote from the Rebbe, that the Amorites knew that they're going to get dispossessed. So why are they putting gold there? They're hoping, because why are they getting dispossessed in favor of God's chosen nation? Because they were sinful. So they're hoping that you'll sin one day and they'll get to go back in.
Oh, really?
Anyway, so that's
in every house.
Yeah. There's actually in the back, there's a sikh about it, if you want to look at it later. So it's actually fun. They're like two opposite ideas. On one hand, the Amori houses were impure. So we said had to be destroyed, the walls, to get rid of the idolatry impurity imbued in them. At the same time, there was treasure, so that's a good thing. Is the Amori house good or is it bad? Or is it both? So it's both. Only through confronting the spirit of impurity and purifying it can they uncover the treasure. This is an interesting idea. This is similar, just I'm saying in the back here. True teshuva, motivated by love, today's Tanya, transforms sins into merits.
Wow.
Where are you reading?
I'm reading on page 230 in the Chayenu. We can't go too long because we have a lot to cover.
Page
We cannot understand.
230 in the height.
We'll do this at the end because this will be more of a partial insight. Okay, moving along. Back to 46. The priest shall then order they empty out the house. The priest shall order they empty out the house before the priest comes to see the mark. And so that whatever's in the house does not become impure. After that, the kohen should come to look at the house. As long as the kohen has not yet involved himself with it, the law of impurity is not applicable. Again, until the kohen comes, nothing's impure. And you take it out, so it shouldn't nothing. You clear all your movables so they don't get deemed impure. Because if you don't clear it out and the kohen deems it impure, then it becomes quarantine and everything becomes impure. And about what objects the Torah have pity on. So think about it. Which movable objects are insoluble or unsalvageable? If you're saying it's metal cups, metal vessels, those can be always put into mikvah. If it's food and drink, just eat it while you're tummy, because they didn't store 20 years of food in their pantry. They had enough food for a day or two, So if it's impure food, eat it while you're impure. No problem. So the Torah does not, what's the Torah worrying about? It's worrying about your earthenware vessels, because those cannot be ever purified. Oh, so funny. Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to be Rabbi Gordon, I'm an aspiring, Rabbi Gordon comedian. Okay. Lamed Zayin. He shall look at the mark. And if he sees that the mark on the walls is a sunken looking deep green, sunken green, dark, murky green. I don't know what shade. Swamp green, Oh yeah, damdamais, or if it's sunken red. And again, the appearance is it's so deep, it looks like it's the optical illusion looks recessed.
So just like on the body, it's like the
Or by the way, or mixture of both colors, red and green also.
It says optic illusion on the body, optic illusion on the wall too.
Yeah,
Same thing?
yeah.
Okay.
For different reasons though, because light compared to dark looks sunken. Here it's not light; it's red or green or both. I don't know. Maybe that's why it wasn't just because green and red is Xmas colors. Maybe we have in our psyche of maybe we don't like. Maybe we're not into those colors because of from this.
The opposite, right?
Okay. Lam Ches. Lam Zayin. Lam Zayin says Shekarura is unusual word. It means sunken, pure sunken. Lam Ches. The priest shall go out to the house and stand the entrance of the house. V'hizkir sabayis shos yamim. Thank you. And the kohen goes out and he quarantines the house. So you can't deem it impure. You have to wait a week. Lamed Tes 39. The priest shall return on the seventh day and look at the house, and if he sees the mark is spread over the walls of the house, so there's no, you can't deem it impure right away. You have to wait a week and see if it spreads. The kohen shall then order they extract the stones that have the mark on them, and they then discard those stones outside the city, al makam tamei, in an impure place. Unusual verb. It means, as Uncle translates as v'yishalfun, remove them. Tsaras removal, there's asbestos removal companies. This is a tsaras removal company.
Well,
Are you suffering from melaphysioma? Call the law firm of. Remember those commercials?
yeah, are you suffering from psoriasis?
Right, exactly. Al-Makam Tameh,
And sue the Amori.
place that is not used for pure objects. This tells you that the stones make their the place of burial impure as long as they're there. So you put it in a no man's land.
Bamidbar.
What?
Bamidbar.
Take the stones,
Oh,
put in the wheelbarrow.
yeah.
You go outside the city to like a forest where you say this is impure. This is the impure junkyard.
I wonder if this is originated for Seamus.
I don't think so.
That's a different.
In burying, there's many things you bury, but this is for a different reason. Shemus isn't impure; it's holy. It's,
Right. But I can't use it.
right. Oh my gosh!
I know, right? Yeah.
All right. Well, good news is we'll be here till Shabbos. So,
Chabu.
Mem Aleph Es Habayis. Yeah, we'll go to 10:30 and we'll stop there. Es Habayis Yakti and Bayis Saviv. He shall then have the inside plaster of the house cut away. V'shavchas Afar Shekritzu El Michutz, and then he shall. The plaster which they trimmed, they poured the plaster to outside the seal makam tamei, to impure place. Aktia is rodinir in Old French, which means cut away. Mibayis means from inside. Saviv means around. Sivas nega. B'teres kaim g'nidruskein sheyikloiv hatiach shesav avnei anaga. Teres Kaim explained that he shall peel off the plaster that's around the stones affected by the mark.
Okay, so it's not a whole stone that you can just peel it off. Yes.
Yeah.
Make it easier.
Hiktsu is lashon cuts his edge. Asher kitzu b'ktzeis hanaga saviv. It's the verb of edge, that is which they peeled around the edges of the mark. Okay. Mem gimel v'im yoshev nega parach b'bayis ha'chechilas avodim v'achari ktzeis es habayis v'achari yitayach. If the mark redevelops on the house after they remove it, then and after the plaster was trimmed off and replastered, Rashi Hiktzeis is lashain he'asois, which means to be carried out. It was trimmed off. Avuchilates is active. It's going on the person who's peeling it. Humishklash kaved, it is a heavy conjugation similar to kiper or diber. I don't know what heavy conjugation means, whatever. It's going on the person rather than the object. If the mark redevelops, I might think that even if it returned on the same day that it would be impure. Comes the Talmud, comes the verse and teaches V'shav HaKoyen, the Koyen shall return V'im Yashuv, and if it returns, just as returning there means at the end of the week, so returning here means the end of a week. Uva HaKoyen, the Koyen shall come and see V'hinei the priest shall come and look at it, and if he sees the mark is spread over the house, this means it is acute saras on the house, tamehu, it is impure. Mem Dalet.
Amen.
The kohen shall come and look at it, and if he sees it spread. But yeah. You might have thought that a returning mark is not impure unless it spreads, right? So remember, if nothing happens, I think the verses are out of order. I remember vaguely. It's not exactly in the sequence you think it to be. But so how can you deem something impure?
Cohen.
What's the criteria of the house impurity? The tsaras in the house. If it spreads, so it's 10 centimeters. Now it's 15 centimeters diameter, right? That's spreading. However, let's say you take it apart and then it comes back exactly 10 centimeters.
The same spot.
Same spot. So maybe that is not enough. That's not, it's returning, but it's not expanding.
Right.
So how do we know that that's also impure? Because we do a gzera shavav, a similar word usage. We use the term tsaras mameres. It's acute tsaras by houses. We also use the same term, tsaras mameres, acute tsaras by clothes. So house and clothes. Just like later, just like later, there's a recurring mark. It's impure even though it did not spread. So to here, the recurring mark is impure even though it did not spread.
So it doesn't matter if it's spread or not, it's impure either way.
We don't know yet.
Okay.
You gotta get bigger, right?
Right.
No, that's not what I said.
Just the recurring mark impure even though it did not spread. So to here, the recurring mark is impure even though it did not spread. If so, what is the Torah teaching us by saying it has spread?
Mm-hmm.
So why does it spread? Just say returns, right? Why does it say it comes back and it expanded, even if it's just the same? So the answer is this is a little bit out of sequence. Rather, this verse in logical sequence should have been written V'notat Zabayis in verse 45. It should be written after verse, it's 44. We should have written this after verse 45. And I'm sorry. Verse 45 should have been after verse 43. In fact, he looks at it, sees the mark has spread, this verse. He's teaching you about a mark that remains in the same condition during the first week. And the Kohen comes, the end of the second week, finds that it's spread. For the verses above not state anything about a mark that remains in the same condition in the first verse.
What happens if the mark is on the treasure?
No, it's not. That's not what we're talking about. No, it's not, that doesn't happen.
Forget about it.
No, it doesn't happen.
It's teaching you here about the spreading that is speaking only of a case where it remained in the same condition in the first is spread in the second. What should he do? I might think he should demolish the house, as it said afterwards. He shall have the house demolished. Torah teaches us by saying, the Kohen shall return, verse 39, the Kohen shall come. Coming is learned from returning. Just as...
Where are you reading?
Page 50. This is a big Talmudic deciphering of what's going on here. But we'll read it, then we'll say it in simpler English. Just like returning. So another comparison. Just like the Kohen returns after week 1, and we say there you just take away the stones, you take them out, you plaster it up, and you give a week. So too, in the case where here he's coming, it's talking about where you take out the stones and give it a week. And if it returns after the second week, in the third week it returns, then you destroy the whole house. If not, it's impure. Where do we know that if the mark remained the same condition both in the first and second week, that he only extracts the stones, trims off the plaster, replasters, and gives another week? Torah teaches us again by saying uba, and again in boy yavai. What's the in verse 48? What's the verse relating to? If it refers to a mark that spreads already in the first week. In 48, what's it saying? Priest comes and sees, he comes again and sees not spread. We know that already. It hasn't spread, your tahor. So what's it saying that again? So
The Kohen has to wash all his clothes.
spread when? If it's spreading the first week, we talked about that. Spreading the second week, we just talked about that. So what's it saying again? It's telling that in the end of the first week, and he sees it's just staying. It's not spreading, but it's not going away. Then you also have to extract and trim. This mark that remains in the same condition for 2 continuous weeks, what shall he do with it? This mark that remains in the same condition, what shall he do with it? I might think that it is exempt, and the kohen may leave, as is written here. The kohen shall declare the house pure. It's exempt, the kohen may leave, as it's written here. The kohen shall declare the house pure. Torah teaches us about this by saying, Kinir Baranaga, for the mark is cleared up. I only declare the house pure if the house is healed. What then shall he do with it? Coming is stated above, and coming is stated below. Just as in the above case, he extracts the stones, trims off the plaster, replaster, gives another week. As we derived above that the coming is equivalent to returning, so too in the case below, the law is the same. I just said words, I don't know what I said. Okay. In summation, Rashi is actually kind on page 40 and 51. He gives you a summary of everything you just said.
Okay.
Because that's real, to me, that's like a real, you have to realize when you learn Rashi, you're getting Gemara training. Like you don't realize that, but that's what it is. Versus, it's not exactly like a nice little Wikipedia entry. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's back and forth. So he's giving us a summary now, which is very nice. A house is only demolished in a case, netitzas, demolishing a mark that returns after the removal of the bad stones and the replastering. Then you destroy the house. And that returning does not need to be bigger. It could be the same exact spot. It's mere returning is a reason to deem the house destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And the verse of the order of the verses is such. If the mark returns, he shall have the house demolished. Whoever enters the house, so verse 43, 45, 46, 47, right? Im Yoshev, the mark returns. Then he has the house demolished. Then you skip over our verse 44. Then whoever enters the house, and whoever eats in the house becomes tummy. And after that, the kohen looks at it, and if he sees the mark has spread, and the verse refers to the situation when the mark remains in the same condition in the first week, that he gives it a second week to be in quarantine. In the second week of quarantine, he comes, it sees that it's spread. What then does he do then? Because it's the first time spreading, he extracts the stones, trims off the plaster, and gives another week. If it reappears, he demolishes the house. If it does not reappear, he must bring 2 birds. For guarding marks, there are no more than 3 weeks of investigation of houses. So basically, the worst case scenario is this house is demolished.
How can that be a miracle? Positive thing when you're kind of like had to demolish your own house.
So this is a good point we just said.
I didn't hear what he said.
He had a question about how do you feel when your house is demolished?
I mean, you said before that
Treasures.
House is supposed to be a miracle, right? Something positive.
Yeah.
Whom do I live with in the meantime?
Jewish Family Services.
Good
Whatever.
point.
Like I'm saying.
The treasure.
I'll move into Chabad.
Yeah, that's Chabad. Yeah, we'll have a bed for you. No problem. Okay, let's just finish the few verses about the house, and then we'll finish. We'll do the Dvar Torah. Mem Vav. The Abba Labai is someone who comes to the house. Kol Yemei Yizkir Yisai. I'm sorry, Mem Hey 45. Menat Tzbayis. He shall have the house demolished. It's Havanav, it's stones, it's eggs, it's wood, it's Kalaf Rabayis, all the plaster. You take it outside the city. I'm welcome telling to bury it in an impure place. Whenever enters the house, call me hiskir. I say while it's being quarantined, you are tame. Don't enter this quarantine house. Rashi, all the period of quarantine, but not during the days that he peeled off its mark. I might have thought I might then think I also exclude a house that has been decidedly pronounced impure when he peeled off its mark. Torah teaches us about this by saying Kol Yemei the entire period.
So anyone who enters a house during is impure, and does the coffin also is impure until he goes to check the house?
I couldn't hear.
I might think that I exclude a house has been maybe if you peel it off, maybe you don't have to destroy your house.
What's your question, Rabbi?
I'm sorry. During the day of quarantine, I'm sorry. Okay.
Can you tell me where Mem Hay starts for Rashi? What page?
There's no Rashi in Mem Hay.
Mm.
We had to do Mem Vav. I didn't do Mem Vav. Good point. I said no, I did Mem Vav. So doing Rashi Mem Vav. There's no Mem Hay in Rashi. So,
Right, so what were you on just now?
Rashi Mem Vav.
Because we were on Mem Hay we were talking about Mem Hay the last I saw in the Chumash.
Verse Mem Vav. Whoever enters the house, call you Meiskir. You say while it's being while he quarantined it, Yitmandarv, you are now impure till the evening.
It's the time for a time to eat so much bread or so many olives or so
Don't
many
go in the
eggs.
house. Stay away from it. Go eat in the hotel room.
I'm not. I'll move to Hilton.
Moving along, he says there's the quarantine time, and then there's the time while it was replastered, waiting to see if it comes back.
So that time is not.
What's the sequence? Let's do the sequence, okay? To summarize it, I think. Green blotch on the wall. You call the Kohen. Kohen says, remove everything. Okay. They remove it. The Kohen puts it in quarantine for a week. It's not condemned yet.
Okay.
Week 2. If it spreads, wait a second. I have to get back 1 second. Just want to double check. Yeah, so you don't do anything right away. You leave it. If it spreads, condemned. I think. If it's spread, it says here, if the tsaras disappeared or turned lighter, you basically if it disappeared, then you take off the area that had it, even though it's clean now, and it's tahar, it's pure. You gotta replaster. Interesting.
Can you just say what you said again?
Basically, week 1, quarantine. Come back, it disappeared. apparently you have to take out the stones. You can't just go back to the house. You take out the stones, replaster, and then you can go back home. It's pure. Okay, scenario 2, at the end of the week. It spreads. So he says, if it's spread after the first week, you don't destroy the house. You do surgery on the stones and replaster, right? Around it.
How can it spread if the stones have been removed? The bad.
No. The
stones,
first week it's not removed.
they're not
The
removed.
first week you don't do anything.
They don't do anything. You just wait to see what happens.
See what happens. If it disappears, you have to replaster, and it's tahar. It's pure. If it spreads, apparently you remove, replaster.
And then if that returns, it's impure.
In addition to removing the affected stones, whatever, they must then take others to replaster it. Okay. After that process, you do a second week of quarantine. At the end of that week, right, it pops back because it was new stones. Then what happens? The house is demolished. Returning back from a replaster job, demolished. If it doesn't, then it's pure. Okay. They're going to have to do a certain process we're going to talk about later. The priest, the kohen examines it. Let's say, what happens then? So if it didn't spread, what happens then? In the first week, back to the first week. If it spread, impure. If you don't demolish it, you take away the stones with a second week. Okay. But let's say other option, it spread by itself the first week. Okay. So, I'm sorry, it did not spread. So you don't do the removal yet. You wait another week. You do nothing for the second week. If it didn't spread, if the green blotch did not spread after week 1, you wait another week.
What you want it to go away, basically, right? Is that one of the?
You would like it to go away to start the purity process,
right? So,
but after the first week, in the second week it spreads, then you don't demolish yet. If because it only from 0 to something, from fresh to something, a returning mark, that's demolishing. But in this case, after the first week, you didn't demolish it. You didn't do anything. You waited. Because in the case where nothing happened, it didn't spread. You do nothing. You wait a second week. If it spreads in the second week, then you pretend it's like the first week. The first time it spreads, you don't demolish. You just do surgery and replaster. That's what it seems like. You're still hoping it's not right. The affected stones was removed.
That's a good question.
The what?
Pesach David says hoping and praying, and I'm saying, can you pray? Is that a prayer in vain?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Pray for it to go away.
I don't know.
Whatever God decreed, God decreed.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, the same thing as
same thing.
Okay,
yeah, that's legitimate.
God forbid somebody has cancer. You
Right,
hope and pray it goes away.
Right.
Shabbos.
Right.
May have already happened. That's what I'm saying.
That's like the Shabbos with Rosh Hashanah.
Good Kodesh. Wow. Good stuff.
If
It may have already been decreed. That's the problem. So then if it was already decreed, it would be in vain, right?
Yeah, but the person that's praying doesn't know that. Right? He's praying that.
Yeah.
what I don't get is what happens.
Yeah.
I would think.
It's like if I go and take a test I pray that the test result is a good test result, the lab test, or because it's just showing what's
What's the
there.
problem with that?
I don't know. Because if it's just showing what was already there, nothing new.
So it sounds to me like that the second week, it only talks about if the second week it starts spreading. Then you do the surgery and then you see if it comes back. And if the third week it comes back, then it's demolished. What happens if it didn't do anything? What if it just stayed the whole time? That's what I'm a little bit confused about. What if it did nothing? It just stayed? Week 1, week 2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I thought
Say here, because
thought that was covered.
I thought so too, but it sounds like it only talks about, at least in here.
Well, they can't.
Even if it stays and doesn't do anything, I think it's impure. That's my guess. You're just
Things that happen, they can remove.
gonna see how bad it is.
Just for the quarantine, don't they remove the bad stuff?
No. There's different quarantines. No. Why is it? Then if it returns, then he's either pure or he starts the purification process, which is the next verses. Oh, here we go. That's right. So basically, actually, the last Rashi in Memches talks about it. Actually, Rashi adds that last case. Just to, I'm not going to do it, but essentially, what it seems Rashi's saying, we talked about every case, we didn't leave. What if it just keeps staying? It doesn't. It just because you don't. There's 3 options of what can happen. You wait a week. You always wait a week. After a week, it can go away.
Yeah.
You take away the stones that were affected, and you do the purification process. Okay. It doesn't go away. You wait another week. At the end of the second week, same thing. It could either get better, which then you do surgery and then you start the purification process. It could spread, which is if we say it spreads, you give it a third week. You do surgery and then give it a third week, and then if it returns, right? Meaning, before you do this, I call surgery, the surgery replacement of the stones, you can never condemn it. It'd have to be surgery, replastered, and returned to be condemned. You only do that when you see a spreading. The first time you see spreading. Spreading equals surgery and replacement. After that, if it returns, then it's condemned. So the case in Memches says we didn't cover, which Rashi Memches will say, what happens if it's just staying? It's not getting better. It's not getting worse. So he says, then after 2 weeks, if it stays, you do the surgery, and you're forcing the third week if it returns to make it condemned or it gets better or it stays. Mm-hmm. And then regardless, all of them, the verses continue. You have to do the